It took a little bit because I staggered the playthroughs, but I have now finished both Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remakes, meaning I have now completed all the remade games in the Erdrick trilogy. One of the things that I always thought I knew about Dragon Quest is how constant they are in their themes and direction, so imagine my surprise when the Erdrick trilogy subverted that. While they are all set in the same land, each game is distinctly different from the others in its structure. From 1's solo adventure and 2's party of developed characters to 3's customizable party, each game brought a different style to the same land and general plot. This variety helped keep me entertained throughout all the journeys, and today I would like to talk about that solo adventure and the party of developed characters. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D Remake are turn-based RPGs developed by Square Enix and Erdrick and published by Square Enix. The original Dragon Quest was developed by Chunsoft and published by Enix and released in Japan in 1986 for the NES, followed up closely by Dragon Quest II Luminaries of the Legendary Line in 1987. Both games would come to North America in 1989 and 1990 respectively under the title Dragon Warrior, although later releases would revert to the Dragon Quest English title. Here is a quick breakdown of the platforms that Dragon Quest 1 and 2 came to in some form prior to the most recent remakes. It came to various PCs, the SNES, Game Boy Color, mobile phones, Wii, Nintendo 3DS, PS4, and Switch. Like with the most recent release, some of these platforms received the 2 games in a collection, or even 3 games with Dragon Quest III included. The remakes were announced alongside the release date for Dragon Quest III HD 2D Remake as part of an ongoing effort to bring more Dragon Quest games to modern platforms. The originals are hugely influential to the series and JRPGs as a whole. While the third game is credited with becoming the countrywide phenomenon, the first 2 games sold quite well in Japan and were very well received. In part due to the advancements in game style and graphics between the Japanese and North American releases, though, Dragon Warrior was not nearly as well received once it finally released in the West. Subsequent re-releases have gotten better reception, including the remakes that I played. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 Remake also swept the physical sales chart in Japan upon release, so at the very least, the Dragon Quest brand is still strong in Japan and I'd say doing steady numbers in North America as well. Following the events of Dragon Quest III, Dragon Quest I begins with the descendant of Erdrick appearing in the land of Alefgard. His origins are mysterious, but his power is undeniable, and he claims that he can defeat the Dragon Lord that has been terrorizing the land and rescue the Princess of Tantagel. He will need to follow in his ancestor's footsteps, and unlike his ancestor, he won't have a party around him to help. All by his lonesome, he must find his way to the Dragon Lord's castle to confront the fearsome foe. Dragon Quest II follows many years after the events of Dragon Quest I. In that time, the descendants of Erdrick have spread across the land, founding 3 kingdoms beyond Tantagel. Those kingdoms are Middenhall, Cannock, and Moonbrook, but a looming threat is emerging within these lands and strikes first at Moonbrook. To combat this threat, the Prince of Middenhall, Prince of Cannock, and Princess of Moonbrook, and in the remake at least, the Princess of Cannock, team up to attempt to take down the wizard Hargon and his demon compatriots. The first game's story is very bare bones, but it has its memorable moments while focusing more on the adventure and the typical knight saves the princess and slays the dragon tale. It's not an excuse plot, as there is depth to the land, it's just that the action is the story. The story of you taking on all these foes single-handedly gives Dragon Quest I one of the most emergent storyline feelings in an RPG I've played. When talking to others about the game, it was about the battles fought and areas explored, not the character details, and every once in a while, it's nice to just focus on that. Dragon Quest II's story is far more robust, and I think is a good reset after Dragon Quest I. Each of the characters has personality and motivation. I enjoyed all the characters in the party, and even the enemies have expanded to have more distinct foes with their own quirks and rivalries with the party and each other. I know some of the storyline was built upon and expanded in the remake, but I'm impressed at the story of 2 having weight and making the characters feel real and important to the narrative. As for gameplay, both games stick to the traditional turn-based model with attack, magic, abilities, items, defending, and running away being the options in each fight. You fight until all enemies are defeated or you are defeated, and the game will give you highlighted yellow enemy names when they are at half health or lower, and orange if they are at around 25% health. You gain experience and gold from each encounter and learn new spells and abilities as you level up, although that is not the only way you can learn them, at least in the remakes. You will encounter enemies randomly as you explore the overworld map or dungeons, although there are spells you can learn to keep them at bay, or items to attract them, as the case may be. These basic elements are shared across, frankly, all of the Dragon Quest games that I have covered, except 11 when it comes to random encounters, but Dragon Quest 1 and 2 also have their own respective gameplay quirks due to the solo versus party RPG approach of the games. In Dragon Quest 1, you are the one and only character in your party, so no need to worry about reviving characters in battle, because if you die, you're done. In the original game, that also meant that you only faced one enemy at a time. That is no longer the case in the remake, but the game has also given several more tools to your arsenal with weapons, spells, and abilities that target groups of enemies which weren't in the original. In 2, the biggest changes involve the party. In the original, you could only control the protagonist in combat, and in the remake, you can choose if you want to control the other party members or leave them to act independently. The second big party change is the addition of the Princess of Canic to the party, where she adds a mixed magic and physical user build with some randomness to her actions akin to the Gadabout class in Dragon Quest III. Both games have sigils that play a small role in the overall plot and give gameplay boosts. These sigils existed in Dragon Quest II originally and have been added to Dragon Quest I Remake. Some activate simply from playing, and others enhance pre-existing abilities when you are down to a certain level of health. It is good to read up on those because those enhanced abilities can be extremely helpful in challenging fights, and the game does not give specifics unless you search them out as to what specific abilities you can enhance and what those enhancements do. Both games now have scrolls in them that you can find while exploring that allow your characters to learn new spells or abilities. There are a lot of great abilities available through these scrolls, so I recommend doing thorough searches of the areas of the game. The games also have more than one difficulty mode and certain quality of life options such as speeding up battles, which, again, were not available in the original. The gameplay was fun in both entries. I enjoyed the first game because of the unique way having only one character changed up my thought process and strategy in battle, and also that the design of the enemy encounters catered to that difference. Dragon Quest II I found was more challenging and required more strategy to beat the toughest enemies. I had found a dominant strategy by the time I got to the end of the game. My problem came when that dominant strategy actually ended up being ineffective against the final boss, and I had to reset so much to adjust and overcome the challenge. I think Dragon Quest I and 2 remakes have solid gameplay that doesn't quite live up to 3 or the later games in the series, but still is enjoyable overall. The remakes also added in some side content elements to keep players engaged or adhere to later established series standards. These additions include the mini-medals and secret areas that many later games have, as well as side story additions. The best example of the side story additions comes in Dragon Quest II Remake with the Under the Sea sections. You can descend into the depths to explore around along with encountering side stories and new enemies/bosses. Dragon Quest II also retains the Tombola game where you get tickets to enter for a chance to win items. The more powerful the item, the harder it is to obtain. This was in the original and would appear in later Dragon Quest entries as well. I think the remakes did a good job of adding in new elements without bloating the games or requiring people to divert from the main story if they wish to focus on that instead. Visually, the remakes are excellent looking. I was continually impressed across the entire remade Erdrick trilogy how the locations and landscapes were updated and realized across each new era. There were returning locations that stayed the same, but there were always new locations and routinely new elements in old locations to find and explore as well as the games progressed. The colorful world is so enticing to explore and so energetic in presentation. Even the areas with poison or decay have energy to them, even if that energy is sinister in nature. I liked the design of the characters, especially the other party members in Dragon Quest II. Those outfits fit them to a T. The one area I would love to see improvement in is dynamic motion or facial expressions for the characters. This is an ongoing gripe of mine for the HD 2D system. As mentioned before, the remakes do add plenty of quality of life features, such as speeding up battles, being able to use zoom in enclosed spaces, and not having to have torches for dark dungeons, to name a few. They also continued the optional features such as map markers to help you figure out where to go for the next objective. The music is the traditional Dragon Quest music soundscape with a few iconic tracks but little overall variety. Given the length of the game, that isn't as big an issue for these games as it would be in later entries in the series. The game also added in voice acting. In the first game it is fine and not too memorable, in part because few characters have prominent roles to play in the story beyond the unvoiced main protagonist. The second game has more extensive voice acting, and it is good, especially for our main cast members. The presentation keeps up the quality that Dragon Quest III Remake started and shows off why Dragon Quest became the iconic series that it did. Dragon Quest 1 and 2 are very different games that still do feel like they belong together in the same world because of the sense of adventure each one brings to the table and the fleshed out world surrounding them. While I have my preferences, one for the gameplay, two for the story, both games are solid and worth playing in their remade forms. It is an accessible way to experience these classics, and I'm looking forward to getting to more Dragon Quest games in the future. Perhaps 7 Reimagined will be next, or the rumored 12 announcement will actually happen and that will take that spot. Thank you to Square Enix for the coverage code for the game. Please leave a like and comment below your thoughts on Dragon Quest 1 and 2, either the remakes or the originals. Subscribe if you have not already for more RPG and Dragon Quest content in the future, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Have a great day, and happy gaming.